Tableau assignment on airline data for Dr. Marlin's strategic management class. The data set was financial and employee information for 10 major airlines within the United States. On sheet 1, we can see the top 10 airlines and the amount of revenue they raised. American Airlines raising the most, just under that Delta Airlines and United Airlines coming in third. The least, or the bottom 3 were Allegiant, Hawaiian, and Spirit Airlines. With the same data and on the same table, we can actually compare revenues to profit. Profit tells us a different story, with Delta Airlines making the most profit, Southwest coming in at 2, United Airlines at 3, and then American Airlines actually in 4th place for profit. Allegiant is still in the last place. The same sheet looking at earnings per share, which is a measure of overall profitability, we see a very different story where Allegiant actually far surpasses the others on earnings per share. What will be something else interesting here is when we look at American Airlines making the most revenue, we can also see that they have a significant amount, many more employees than the others, and higher overhead costs. When we look at their profit, they bump down to number 4, and then when we look at their earnings per share, they're actually second from the last, which is interesting, and it might speak to the actual the overhead costs associated with their model. On sheet 3, we can look at the return on assets compared to revenue. So again, we look at American Airlines here. They do not have, so they have their highest revenue, but they do not have, they are almost tied with the lowest return on assets. Going back here to Southwest Airlines, the best cost provider, combined, if you look at return on assets combined with realized revenue, they have actually the highest return on assets. Alternatively, if you look at revenue and return on asset, Delta Airlines actually has the highest revenue with the highest amount of return on asset for that amount. On sheet 2, and through strategic mapping, I was able to identify 3 strategic groups. The top 3 evidenced here: American, Delta, and United. And then in the middle, we have Southwest Airlines. And then we have our bottom 6 airlines. So 3 distinct groups. And in my opinion, and my belief is that the top 3, United, American, and Delta, would be offering a broad differentiation strategy. Southwest Airlines in the middle would be implementing a best cost strategy. And the 6 carriers at the bottom would be implementing a low cost strategy. What's interesting to note, we learned in class about the environmental factors and outside forces and that can affect a business model and strategy, and that there were risks and benefits associated with using each of those competitive strategies. So when we looked at profit of those same organizations, what was interesting to note was that there was the direct correlation when the economy took a downturn, which it did between 2015 and 2019. In 2016, GDP dropped to significantly less than 2015, and it was a slow rise through 2019. So the broad differentiation, who were able to charge higher prices for the extra value, they saw a decrease in profit. Delta Airlines, American Airlines, and United. So they were either dipping in profitability or baseline. What was interesting is that the providers that were offering this low-cost strategy, their profit went up when the economy went down, or when the economy took a downturn. And we learned about that in class. So I thought that was really interesting. So when we look at the most efficient, we're going to look at Delta Airlines. So Delta Airlines has the highest profitability with the highest return on, with a very acceptable return on assets. Allegiant is the same way. Allegiant Airlines has, for their model, it works for them. They have a very high return on assets with low profitability, and they have actually the highest earnings per share. And what's interesting to me was to realize about American Airlines, who has the highest revenue, the highest amount of employees, but the least return on revenue. Thank you very much.